Welcome to the programme. The United Nations has issued a plea to end the inhumane collective suffering in Gaza. The Secretary-General has described the situation in the Strip as a nightmare. At least 10,022 Palestinians have been killed since Israel began bombing Gaza, and calls for a ceasefire have so far been dismissed by Israel.
Gaza is becoming a graveyard for children. Hundreds of girls and boys are reportedly being killed or injured every day. More journalists have reportedly been killed over a 4-week period than in any conflict in at least 3 decades. More United Nations aid workers have been killed than in any comparable period in the history of our organization. The parties to the conflict, and indeed the international community, face an immediate and fundamental responsibility to stop the inhuman collective suffering and dramatically expand humanitarian aid to Gaza. The way forward is clear. A humanitarian ceasefire now.
Well, as the crisis deepens, medical centres in Gaza can't cope with the constant flow of the injured. Many hospitals have simply run out of fuel and basic medical supplies. At least 32 out of 35 medical facilities have now stopped working altogether. Meanwhile, Israel continues to bomb Gaza. Overnight, 2 large airstrikes hit across the road from Al Jazeera's camera position in Gaza City. And a further Israeli strike killed at least 16 people in Rafah, that's in the south of the Gaza Strip, on Monday night. The bombing hit a residential neighbourhood in the Al-Shabura refugee camp. Some of the victims include members of the same family. All right, let's bring in Al Jazeera's Hani Mahmoud, who joins us from Khan Younis, that's in the south of Gaza Strip. And Hani, several hours ago, we were seeing what looked like sizable explosions over Gaza City. What more do we know about that latest operation and the impact of that operation in northern Gaza?
Yes, Nith. Well, the bombardment continue over Gaza City as of early hours of yesterday's evening, throughout all of last night and early hours of this morning. Gaza City has been a major site of intensive air bombardment and airstrike using all kind of unconventional bombs and weapons. The Israeli arsenal we're talking about large diameters bombs, we're talking about earthquake bombs shaking the very foundation of every single residential building in the Gaza Strip, bringing more residential homes and more residential buildings down to the ground. Now, the purpose, as we hear from the Israeli military, is the use of these bombs just to destroy bunkers and tunnels operated by Hamas element. But in fact, what we see on the top of the ground is just more residential blocks and more residential buildings are being destroyed, leaving no place for Gazans to sit in. Around the Shifa hospital vicinity, more bombardment and more airstrike destroying major parts of the infrastructure and all the roads leading to the main entrance of the hospital, making it very difficult for ambulance to move to bring injuries from targeted sites. Now, there is no a place in Gaza more safe than the other. Everywhere in the Gaza Strip has been a target of these relentless airstrikes. At early hours of this morning and late hours of last night, Rafah has been a target of Israeli strike, where more than 20 people so far have been killed and others are still under the rubble. Just as I arrived to the site of Nasser Hospital, a major airstrike hit city of Khan Younis. So far, 3 people are killed in one residential home. The 3 belong to one single family. There are more people under the rubble. This is the tragedy of these airstrikes. There are so many people trapped under the rubble, which increase the likelihood of increased numbers of injuries and those who are killed.
And Hani, just to point out to our viewers, people have been told by the Israeli military to evacuate from the north of Gaza to the south. But what you're reporting, of course, are bombardments precisely in the south around Rafah. And extraordinary scenes from the Indonesian hospital with doctors working in almost complete darkness. Gaza's medical facilities clearly under extraordinary pressure, Hani.
Yes, yes. Well, all the places in Gaza are equally unsafe, are equally dangerous, and are equally under relentless heavy airstrikes. People who evacuate earlier of last month to the south found themselves under heavy bombardment and airstrike. We've seen examples of so many evacuees who got killed in those airstrikes. They evacuated only to get killed in the homes that they took as refuge with the people in the southern part of the Gaza Strip. The situations in hospitals are very, very dire, very complicated. Hospitals are not even 1% of proper medical services are giving to people. What we see now, whether it's the Shifa or the Indonesian hospital, no medical supply, extreme shortage of medical supply, extreme shortage of fuel, extreme shortage of basic survival items just turn these hospitals, these facilities into just a standing skeleton. They don't have any services whatsoever to offer, not only to patients, but also to injuries and to people who evacuated inside of them. The Indonesian hospital is an example of a large health facility that has completely collapsed and completely out of service, and within just a few hours there will be an announcement that the hospital is completely out of any medical service to anyone, which put the life of so many inside, whether patient injuries or evacuees, at jeopardy.
Extraordinary pressure the hospitals are under at the moment across Gaza Strip. Hani Mahmoud speaking to us from Khan Younis. Many thanks for that.